Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Facts. Tonight, we will gently explore the mystery of aging, a process every one of us experiences, yet only a few truly understand. Aging is not a single moment or a sudden turning point. It is a slow and continuous story unfolding within us, written into our memories and woven into our daily rhythms. It shapes how we heal, how we think, how we adapt, and how we carry our experiences forward through time. This is a subject full of quiet surprises. Aging is not only about decline, it is also about resilience, transformation, and remarkable biological creativity. Inside the body, countless systems are constantly adjusting, repairing, and responding to the passage of years. Some of these changes are visible, while others remain hidden deep within tissues and molecules, quietly shaping how we feel and function. As we move through this journey together, we will wander across science, history, and human experience. We will explore what time does to the body, and how the body responds in return. If you enjoy these calm and thoughtful journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here as well, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is settle in. Let your body soften. Let your eyes grow heavy. And as you begin to unwind, allow the day to gently fade away. Join me as we explore this fascinating topic together. Let's begin. Aging may seem to begin in adulthood, yet its foundations are shaped much earlier, during childhood. Long before wrinkles appear or joints begin to stiffen, your body is already making long-term decisions about maintenance and resilience. During childhood and adolescence, organs complete their growth, hormones surge, and the immune system learns what to fight and what to ignore. In these years, sleep, nutrition, stress, and activity levels can influence how many muscle fibers you develop, how dense your bones become, and how your metabolism is set. You can think of it like building a house. The same storm can affect two homes very differently, depending on the strength of their foundations. Building more bone during youth can mean having more reserve later in life before reaching dangerous levels of loss. Learning movement skills early can make exercise feel natural even decades later. Even early infections or air quality can leave subtle, lasting imprints. Aging is not something that suddenly appears in midlife. It is a lifelong arc, unfolding quietly over time. Your biological age can differ significantly from your calendar age. Two people may share the same birthday, yet feel as though they live in entirely different bodies. One climbs stairs with ease, while the other feels breathless and sore. This difference is what we call biological age. It can be measured in many ways: resting heart rate, blood pressure, waist size, blood sugar control, and how quickly your body recovers after exertion. Scientists also look at inflammation markers and how efficiently the body handles short bursts of effort. Even simple measures like grip strength and walking speed can reveal a great deal. They reflect the combined performance of nerves, muscles, balance, and energy systems all at once. The most fascinating part is that biological age is not fixed. It is not a final verdict. It can shift in either direction. Good sleep, strength training, and consistent movement can improve many of these markers within months. Even identical twins can age at different rates, despite sharing the same DNA. Twins may start with the same genetic blueprint, yet live very different lives. One might sit for long hours, snack late at night, and sleep irregularly. The other might stay active, walk often, lift weights, and follow a consistent sleep schedule. Over time, these small choices accumulate. Their skin may show different levels of sun damage. Their waistlines may diverge. Blood pressure and cholesterol levels can shift apart. Even their faces may change in ways others notice before they do. Scientists study twins because they reveal just how powerful daily life can be. Genes set the stage, but behavior writes much of the script. Stress also plays a role. Long periods of high stress can reshape hormones and appetite, and these changes ripple through metabolism. In twins, you can almost observe how lifestyle gradually becomes biology, one habit at a time. Some people carry genetic variants linked to unusually long lives. Certain families seem to have biological advantages that help them reach extreme old age with fewer diseases. Researchers have identified links to genes involved in cholesterol regulation, insulin signaling, and cellular repair. One well-known example is a variant near the FOXO3 gene, which appears more frequently in long-lived populations. Other studies point to genetic traits that help maintain healthier cholesterol patterns, protecting blood vessels over decades. However, genetics does not guarantee a long life, nor does it excuse harmful habits. It simply shifts the odds slightly. What fascinates scientists is that many of these genetic variants influence similar themes. They tend to guide the body toward steadier metabolism, lower inflammation, and more efficient maintenance. In a way, these genes provide a slightly better toolkit. But the body still has to use those tools wisely. Your brain may shrink with age, yet it also has the remarkable ability to rewire itself. Across the lifespan, the brain is constantly changing, and not all of those changes are losses. Some regions can become smaller over time, especially those involved in memory and processing speed. Yet, at the same time, the brain remains adaptable. When you practice a skill, neural networks strengthen and connections become more efficient. Learning a new language, playing an instrument, or even training your balance can activate entirely new circuits. Even after injury, the brain can reroute signals and discover alternative pathways. Older adults often develop a different kind of intelligence. They draw on deep pattern recognition, emotional insight, and experience with consequences, qualities that can compensate for slower recall. The brain is not a single battery that simply drains over time. It is more like a city that is constantly being rebuilt and reorganized. Some streets narrow, new roads appear, and traffic patterns shift. What you repeatedly focus on helps determine which routes stay active and well-maintained. Muscles may weaken with age, but strength training can reverse much of that loss. Muscle decline can feel subtle at first, almost like something quietly being taken away. You may do a little less without noticing, until one day stairs feel steeper and everyday objects feel heavier. Part of this comes from reduced signals for muscle growth, and part comes from simply using muscles less often. The encouraging truth is that muscle remains highly trainable even later in life. When you challenge muscles with resistance, they respond by repairing and growing stronger. At the same time, the nervous system becomes more efficient at activating the muscle you already have. This is why early improvements in strength can feel surprisingly fast. Stronger legs improve balance and reduce the risk of falls. Stronger hips and back muscles can ease pressure on joints. Even short, consistent training sessions can make a meaningful difference. The benefits are not only visible. Muscle acts as a metabolic engine, helping regulate blood sugar and supporting independence in daily life. Strength training is one of the closest things we have to turning back functional time. Your immune system also changes gradually, and infections can become more impactful. The immune system is like a living memory, and like all systems, it has limits. Over the years, it spends resources responding to new threats and maintaining defenses against old ones. One important organ involved in producing fresh immune cells gradually shrinks with age, reducing the supply of new defenders. At the same time, the body can shift into a state of low-level background immune activity. This means that defenses remain partially active even when there is no clear threat. When a new virus appears, the response may be slower and less coordinated. This helps explain why older adults may face higher risks from infections like flu, pneumonia, or shingles. It also highlights why vaccines and boosters become especially important. Vaccines act like a rehearsal, preparing the immune system so it can respond more quickly when real exposure occurs. Aging is not only about strength, it is also about readiness, and the immune system plays a central role in that story. Some age-related changes reflect damage, while others are forms of adaptation. It can be tempting to see every change in the body as a breakdown, but biology is rarely that simple. Some changes are the result of wear and tear, tiny accumulated injuries, or a gradual slowing of repair processes. Others represent the body choosing safety over peak performance. For example, a slower metabolism can help conserve energy when resources are uncertain. A less aggressive immune response can reduce the risk of the body attacking itself. Even shifts in sleep patterns may reflect changes in light sensitivity and daily energy rhythms. The challenge is that these adaptations can become problematic in the modern world. Energy conservation can lead to weight gain when food is abundant. Reduced repair can turn minor issues into chronic problems when movement declines. Aging is a balance between protecting the body and maintaining its capabilities. Seeing it this way transforms the narrative. Aging becomes less about inevitable decline and more about design, a continuous negotiation between the body and time. Some cells can enter a zombie-like state, disrupting nearby tissues. When a cell becomes too damaged to safely divide, it may not die immediately. Instead, it can enter a kind of standby mode. It remains alive, but stops performing its original function. This can be protective, preventing damaged DNA from being copied into new cells. But it also creates a new problem. These lingering cells can release inflammatory signals and chemical messengers that affect surrounding tissue. Nearby healthy cells may begin to behave differently. Repair slows down. The local environment becomes more unstable and irritated. Over time, clusters of these cells can contribute to stiffness, slower healing, and changes in organ function. Researchers are deeply interested in this process because it represents a potential target. If we could reduce the number of these cells or quiet their signals, we might improve how tissues function. It is a powerful reminder that aging is not only about cells failing, it is also about cells communicating in the wrong ways. Scientists have even begun to partially reset cellular age in laboratory settings, at least in animals. Recent research suggests that some aspects of cellular aging can be reversed. This idea comes from a process known as reprogramming. Cells carry chemical markers that determine which genes are active. Under specific conditions, scientists can nudge these markers toward a more youthful pattern without turning cells completely back into stem cells. In animal studies, similar techniques have improved signs of aging in certain tissues. There have even been experiments where reprogramming helped restore function in damaged eye nerves. However, this is not yet a safe or ready treatment for humans. It carries risks, including uncontrolled cell growth. Still, it has fundamentally changed how scientists think about aging. It suggests that aging may not be a one-way process. Some aspects may be reversible at the cellular level, and that possibility is what makes this field so exciting. It reframes aging as a problem of information and repair, not just time. Telomeres gradually shorten as cells divide, yet they are only one small part of the aging story. At the ends of your chromosomes sit protective caps called telomeres. Each time a cell divides, these caps tend to become slightly shorter, much like the plastic tip of a shoelace wearing down over time. When telomeres become too short, cells may stop dividing altogether, limiting the renewal of tissues that rely on constant replacement. At first, this can sound like a simple countdown clock, but aging is far more complex than a single ticking mechanism. Some cells maintain their telomeres more effectively than others, and different tissues show very different patterns. Factors like stress, smoking, and long-term illness have been linked to shorter telomeres in many studies. At the same time, regular physical activity and consistent sleep often correlate with longer telomeres. Still, telomeres are only a clue, not a final answer. They are one thread in a much larger web of repair, damage, and cellular decision-making. Another way scientists measure aging is through something called epigenetic clocks. Your DNA sequence itself remains mostly unchanged throughout life, but the way your genes are expressed can shift dramatically over time. Cells use tiny chemical tags to turn genes on, turn them down, or keep them silent. These patterns change as you age. Epigenetic clocks analyze these patterns and compare them to large datasets to estimate your biological age, how old your tissues appear from a molecular perspective. What makes this remarkable is how quickly these readings can change. Certain illnesses can push the clock forward, but improvements in fitness, sleep, and inflammation levels can sometimes move it backward. Researchers use these clocks to test whether an intervention is affecting the underlying processes of aging, rather than simply treating symptoms. The clocks are not perfect, and different models can produce slightly different results. But for the first time, scientists have a tool to measure how time leaves its imprint inside the body, written in molecular patterns. Your skin is another place where aging quietly unfolds, often in ways we can both see and feel. Skin is constantly renewing itself. Fresh cells rise from deeper layers and gradually move upward, eventually forming the outer barrier that protects you from the environment. In youth, this renewal process is fast. Cuts heal quickly, and the surface of the skin appears smoother. With age, this cycle slows down. The outer barrier becomes thinner and less resilient. This affects how the skin holds moisture, how it responds to irritation, and how it recovers after sun exposure. Older cells may linger longer before being shed, which can give the skin a duller appearance. Blood flow to the skin may also decrease, reducing the delivery of oxygen and nutrients. Yet even then, the skin continues to respond to care. Consistent sun protection, good nutrition, and proper hydration can support its function. Aging skin is not collapsing. It is gradually slowing its rhythm of renewal. Collagen, one of the key structural proteins in the body, also changes over time. Collagen gives skin its strength and elasticity. As production declines, skin can become less firm and more prone to bruising. Healing also changes because collagen forms the scaffold that helps close wounds. In younger skin, repair happens quickly and efficiently. New collagen is laid down, then reorganized into a strong structure. With age, this process becomes slower and less coordinated. Wounds may take longer to heal, and scars may look different. Sun exposure accelerates collagen breakdown, which is why two people of the same age can have very different skin depending on their sun history. But collagen is not only about appearance. It is a working material throughout the body, in tendons, ligaments, and blood vessels. When collagen quality changes, it affects how tissues stretch, support, and recover. Hair also changes with age, often in ways that feel symbolic. Hair turns gray when pigment-producing cells stop replenishing themselves. Each hair follicle contains specialized cells that create pigment and deliver it into the growing hair strand. Over time, the stem cells that maintain this process can become less reliable or depleted. As a result, hair grows with less pigment, or none at all. That is why gray hair often appears gradually, as a mix rather than an instant shift. Stress has been linked to this process in some studies, and certain biological signals may influence pigment loss. However, genetics remains the strongest factor in determining when graying begins. Importantly, gray hair is not weak or dead. It simply reflects a change in one specific function inside the follicle. Even without pigment, the follicle can continue producing hair for many years. Hair loss follows a different path. Pattern baldness is not just hair falling out. It is hair slowly changing its behavior. Certain hair follicles become more sensitive to a hormone byproduct called DHT. Over time, these follicles shrink. The hair they produce becomes thinner, shorter, and lighter until it is barely visible. This process is strongly influenced by genetics, which is why it often follows recognizable patterns across generations. Interestingly, the scalp itself is not damaged. The follicles are simply responding to signals differently, altering their growth cycle. Treatments often aim to reduce the effects of DHT or improve the conditions that support hair growth. What makes this process fascinating is how local it is. On the same scalp, follicles just centimeters apart can behave completely differently, each following its own biological script. Your eyes also change with time, often in subtle but noticeable ways. Inside the eye sits a clear lens that constantly adjusts its shape to help you focus. When you look at something far away, the lens flattens. When you shift your gaze to something close, it becomes rounder. This process is called accommodation. Over the years, the proteins inside the lens pack more tightly together, making the lens stiffer. As a result, it loses some of its ability to change shape. This is why many people begin reaching for reading glasses in midlife, even if their distance vision still feels sharp. The shift can seem sudden, but it often reflects a gradual crossing of a threshold where small details become harder to bring into focus. The eye is not losing its ability to see. It is losing some of its flexibility to refocus quickly. Better lighting can help, as it reduces the strain required to sharpen an image. This is one of the most universal changes associated with aging, and it highlights something important. Sometimes aging is not about damage, it is about mechanics. Time can alter biology through simple physical changes, such as stiffening structures that once moved easily. Hearing changes follow a similar quiet path. For many people, the first sign is subtle. Birds may sound quieter. Certain consonants begin to blur. Conversations in busy environments feel more tiring, even if voices seem loud enough. This is because age-related hearing loss often begins with higher frequencies, the crisp edges of sound that help distinguish speech. Inside the inner ear are delicate hair cells that convert vibration into electrical signals for the brain. Unlike many other cells in the body, these do not regenerate in humans. Over time, exposure to noise and natural wear can reduce their function. As high-frequency detail fades, the brain works harder to fill in missing pieces. That extra effort can lead to fatigue, irritability, or even withdrawal from social situations. Often, long before someone acknowledges hearing difficulty, they may already be experiencing its effects. The encouraging part is that modern hearing aids and assistive technologies have improved significantly. Early support can help preserve connection, confidence, and engagement with the world. Hearing is not just about volume. It is about clarity, energy, and participation in life. Taste also evolves with age, often in ways that shift what feels satisfying. Taste is not limited to the tongue. It is a full sensory experience involving smell, texture, temperature, and memory. As we age, taste buds can become less sensitive, and changes in saliva can affect how flavors are dissolved and perceived. Foods that once felt rich and flavorful may seem more muted. As a result, people may begin adding more salt or sugar without realizing it. This is not a flaw in character. It is a shift in perception. At the same time, the brain's relationship with food can change. Old favorites may lose their appeal, while new preferences emerge. Medications can also influence taste, which is one reason appetite may shift in later life. The hopeful perspective is that flavor can be rediscovered in new ways. Herbs, acidity like lemon, and varied textures can bring meals back to life without relying on excess salt or sugar. Satisfaction does not disappear. It simply finds a new path. Smell, one of the most ancient senses, can also fade early and quietly. It is deeply connected to memory and emotion. When smell diminishes, the world can feel unexpectedly flat. Coffee loses its richness. Rain loses its sharpness. Much of what we perceive as taste is actually smell rising from the mouth, so its loss can change food experiences dramatically. Smell can decline for many reasons, including inflammation, past infections, and changes in nerve pathways. What makes it especially important is that reduced smell can sometimes appear early in certain neurological conditions. It is not a diagnosis by itself, but it can serve as an early signal that sensory circuits are under strain. Researchers are exploring smell testing as a simple screening tool and investigating whether smell training can help strengthen these pathways. Smell is often overlooked until it fades, yet it plays a quiet and protective role. It warns of smoke, spoiled food, or gas leaks, and it anchors us in place, giving environments their emotional texture. Bone, despite appearing solid and unchanging, is very much alive. It behaves less like stone and more like an active construction site. Cells called osteoclasts break down old bone, while osteoblasts build new bone in its place. This process of remodeling happens continuously and responds to the forces placed on the body. When you walk, jump, lift, or carry weight, bone senses that stress and strengthens itself accordingly. When movement decreases, the signal to maintain strong bone weakens, and the balance can shift toward loss. This is why weight-bearing activity is important throughout life. Bone also acts as a reservoir, storing calcium and other minerals that the body can draw upon when needed. Hormones influence this balance, which is why bone health often changes around menopause. The fascinating part is that bone is not passive. It listens. It adapts. It reshapes itself based on how you live. Your skeleton is constantly rewriting its own structure. Osteoporosis develops when bone breakdown begins to outpace rebuilding. It is not just about fragile bones. It is a change in internal architecture. Bones may appear normal on the outside, yet inside they become more porous and less able to absorb impact. This is why fractures can occur from relatively minor events, such as a simple fall or sudden movement. Risk increases with age, but it is also influenced by genetics, nutrition, hormones, and activity levels. The condition often remains silent until a fracture occurs, which makes early screening especially valuable. The spine, hips, and wrists are common areas of concern because they bear weight or absorb force during falls. The encouraging reality is that bone still responds to targeted stress. With the right approach, it is possible to slow breakdown or even encourage rebuilding. Osteoporosis is not a personal failure. It is a biological tipping point, and one that can often be shifted back toward stability. Balance, something we rarely think about until it falters, is another system that changes with age. It relies on a complex integration of signals. Tiny sensors in the inner ear detect movement and orientation, The eyes provide visual information. The feet send feedback about the ground. The brain combines all of this into a sense of stability. Over time, these systems can become less sensitive or slower to respond. Vision changes, muscle weakness, and slower nerve signaling can all contribute. This is why balance may feel less steady in the dark or on uneven surfaces. Yet balance, like many systems, can be trained. Simple exercises, standing on one foot, practicing slow, controlled movements, or activities like Tai Chi can strengthen coordination. As balance improves, confidence often returns. Movement becomes less cautious, and life begins to feel more open again. Preventing falls is not only about safety, it is about preserving freedom. Reaction time often slows with age, yet decision-making can become more accurate. There is a reason older drivers may pause a little longer at a busy intersection. Processing speed and nerve signaling can slow over time. But that is only part of the story. Experience builds a deep library of patterns, and that library allows for better judgment. An older adult may recognize potential hazards earlier, predict how others will behave, and choose a safer response. This is why expertise often feels calm rather than rushed. It is not about speed, it is about precision. In many real-world situations, accuracy matters more than raw reaction time. Pilots, surgeons, and skilled craftspeople often rely on judgment refined over years. The brain adapts by using different networks. It leans more on knowledge and pattern recognition rather than rapid calculation. Training still matters. Staying active, sleeping well, and practicing complex movement, like dance, can keep these pathways engaged. Aging may slow the quick spark, but it can deepen the steady flame. The goal becomes wise speed, not frantic speed. Blood vessels also change over time, particularly the arteries. Arteries are designed to stretch with each heartbeat, then return to their original shape. This elasticity helps cushion the surge of blood and protect smaller vessels. With age, artery walls can stiffen due to changes in collagen and elastin, and the gradual buildup of calcium. When this stiffness increases, blood pressure can rise, especially the top number, because the vessels no longer expand as easily. This can happen even without major blockages. It is a different kind of strain, one that places additional work on the heart and can affect organs like the kidneys, eyes, and brain over time. The encouraging part is that arteries still respond to lifestyle. Regular aerobic activity, reduced salt intake, and stress management can support vessel health. Medications can also play an important role when needed. Understanding arterial stiffness shifts the perspective. Blood pressure is not only about diet, it is also about the mechanical aging of tissues. The heart itself also adapts with age. It is a muscle that works continuously, every second of your life. Over time, especially under conditions like long-term high blood pressure, the heart's main pumping chamber can thicken. This thickening can make the heart stiffer, meaning it may not fill as easily between beats. As a result, some people experience breathlessness during exertion, even when the pumping strength appears normal. This pattern reflects a type of heart dysfunction related to filling, not squeezing. It is subtle and can be overlooked if we think of heart disease only in terms of blocked arteries. The good news is that the heart responds to reduced strain. Managing blood pressure, staying physically active, treating sleep apnea, and limiting alcohol can all help. The heart is not fragile. It is adaptable, a responsive engine that can still be tuned over time. Blood vessels can even grow new pathways. The body has the ability to form new blood vessels when needed, a process known as angiogenesis. When tissues require more oxygen, signals can trigger the growth of tiny new capillaries, creating alternative routes for blood flow. Athletes often develop denser capillary networks in their muscles, improving oxygen delivery and waste removal. After injury, new vessels help bring immune cells and nutrients to the site of repair. Even in disease, this process plays a role. Some tumors exploit angiogenesis to support their growth, which is why certain treatments aim to block it. With age, the ability to form new vessels may decline, potentially slowing healing or reducing endurance. Yet the system remains responsive. Regular movement supports blood vessel health and encourages better signaling. The idea that your circulation can reorganize itself is remarkable. Your body is not simply wearing out. It is trying to adapt, reroute, and overcome obstacles. At a deeper level, energy production within cells also changes. Mitochondria, often called the power plants of the cell, are more like adaptive engines. They convert food into usable energy and adjust their output depending on demand. With age, mitochondria can become less efficient and may produce more stress signals within the cell. This can contribute to fatigue, reduced muscle performance, and slower recovery. Mitochondria are involved in many processes beyond energy, including inflammation signaling and the regulation of cell death. When they struggle, the effects ripple across multiple systems. The encouraging part is that mitochondria respond strongly to lifestyle. Endurance exercise can stimulate the creation of new mitochondria and improve their function. Sleep supports repair processes, allowing energy systems to recover. Even environmental factors like heat and cold exposure may influence mitochondrial pathways, though research is still ongoing. In a very real sense, your daily habits send instructions to your mitochondria. If your life demands effort, they adapt to meet that demand. If your life becomes more sedentary, they reduce their output. Oxidative damage is another part of the aging process, yet it is not as simple as it sounds. Every breath you take supports metabolism, and metabolism produces reactive molecules. These molecules can interact with DNA, proteins, and cell membranes, causing small amounts of damage. This is known as oxidative stress. It may sound harmful, but it is also normal. Your body has built-in systems to manage this, including enzymes that neutralize reactive molecules and mechanisms that repair or replace damaged components. Aging may involve a gradual imbalance, where damage slightly outpaces repair. This imbalance can be influenced by chronic stress, poor sleep, and illness. Interestingly, reactive molecules are not purely harmful. They also act as signals. For example, a short burst of exercise increases oxidative stress temporarily, which can trigger the body to strengthen its defenses. This is one reason physical activity is protective. It trains resilience. Diet also plays a role, but not in a simple, more antioxidants is better way. The body's own systems are the primary defense, and they are shaped by overall lifestyle. Oxidative stress is not something to eliminate completely. It is something to balance. Another subtle but important shift is chronic low-level inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging. Inflammation is essential. It helps fight infections and repair injuries, but problems arise when inflammatory signals never fully switch off. With age, many people develop a quiet, persistent increase in background inflammation. This can come from stressed cells, excess body fat, poor sleep, chronic infections, or even gum disease. It does not feel like a fever. Instead, it acts like a slow, underlying signal that contributes to many conditions, from cardiovascular disease to frailty. Researchers call this inflammaging because it links immune activity directly to the aging process. What makes it complex is that inflammation is both a cause and a consequence. As tissues become less efficient, they may trigger more immune activity. That activity, in turn, can place additional strain on tissues. It becomes a feedback loop. Breaking that loop often involves simple, consistent habits: movement, strength training, sleep, and addressing chronic conditions. Aging, in this sense, is not one system failing. It is the entire body's communication becoming noisier over time. Sleep also changes with age, often in ways that feel subtle but deeply affect how we experience rest. In younger years, sleep tends to drop you quickly into deeper stages, the kind that feel like a full-body reset. As time goes on, that deep portion of sleep can become shorter, while lighter stages take up more of the night. You may wake more easily from small sounds. You might briefly surface from sleep without even remembering it. This matters because different stages of sleep serve different purposes. Deep sleep supports physical repair, while dream-rich stages support memory and emotional processing. When the balance shifts, mornings can feel less refreshing, even if you've spent enough hours in bed. These changes can be influenced by pain, medications, alcohol, or sleep disorders like sleep apnea, which becomes more common with age. The encouraging part is that sleep remains responsive. Exposure to morning daylight, regular movement, cooler sleeping environments, and consistent wake times can all improve sleep quality. Sleep is not a switch you lose. It is a rhythm you can often retrain. Circadian rhythms, the internal clock that regulates sleep and wakefulness, can also shift over time. Many people find that they feel sleepy earlier in the evening and wake earlier in the morning. This shift can feel confusing, especially when it doesn't align with modern schedules. It can even be mistaken for insomnia, but often it reflects a natural change in timing rather than a failure to sleep. Light plays a powerful role here. Bright light in the morning helps anchor the rhythm, while exposure to light in the evening can delay it. Understanding how your rhythm is shifting allows you to work with it instead of against it. Circadian timing affects more than sleep. It influences hunger, body temperature, alertness, and energy across the entire day. Melatonin, a hormone involved in signaling sleep, also changes. It is not a sedative, but more like a signal that tells the brain night has arrived. With age, melatonin production may decrease or become less consistent. The result can feel like losing the smooth transition into sleep. You may feel tired, but your mind does not drift into rest as easily. Light exposure plays a key role in regulating melatonin. Bright artificial light, especially from screens, can delay its release. This is why dim lighting and reduced screen time in the evening become more important over time. Some people turn to melatonin supplements, but timing and dosage matter. The most powerful tool remains a stable routine paired with proper light management. Inside the body, another system undergoing change is the gut microbiome. Your digestive system is home to a vast community of microorganisms that help break down food, regulate immunity, and produce important compounds. Over time, this ecosystem can shift. Diet becomes narrower, medications accumulate, and physical activity patterns change. All of these factors influence which microbes thrive. When diversity decreases, the gut may become less resilient and inflammation can increase more easily. Some beneficial microbes produce compounds that help protect the gut lining and regulate immune responses. When these decline, the entire system can become more reactive. The fascinating part is how dynamic this system is. The microbiome can change within days in response to diet. Fiber-rich foods, fermented foods, and regular movement can support a healthier balance. Antibiotics, on the other hand, can cause major disruptions, sometimes with long-lasting effects. Aging is often described as something that happens to our cells. But in many ways, it also happens to ecosystems, and you carry one inside you. Digestion itself can also shift. Digestive enzymes, which break food into absorbable nutrients, may be produced differently. Stomach acid levels can decrease, affecting how proteins are processed and how certain vitamins are absorbed. This can lead to new sensitivities, to heavy meals, fatty foods, or large portions late in the day. Lactose tolerance may change as well, not because milk changes, but because the enzyme that breaks it down may decrease. Medications can further influence digestion by altering acid levels or gut movement. The connection between digestion, energy, and mood becomes more noticeable. When food is not processed efficiently, it can lead to fatigue or discomfort. Small adjustments can make a difference. Eating smaller meals, chewing thoroughly, and being mindful of timing can reduce strain. Aging digestion often benefits from strategy rather than restriction. Metabolism is another area where perception and reality often differ. Many people think of metabolism as something that simply slows down like a fading flame. In reality, it is more nuanced. Resting energy use may decline slightly, but much of the change is linked to muscle loss and reduced daily movement. Muscle burns more energy than fat, even at rest. When muscle mass decreases, the body becomes more energy efficient in a way that can lead to weight gain. This is why someone may gain weight while eating the same way they always have. The encouraging truth is that metabolism remains adaptable. Strength training can rebuild muscle, and regular walking can increase daily energy use without feeling overwhelming. Sleep and protein intake also influence appetite and food choices. Metabolism is not just how fast you burn calories. It is how your body manages and allocates energy, and that system responds to how you live. Insulin sensitivity can also shift, increasing the risk of type 2 diabetes. Insulin helps move glucose from the blood into cells, where it can be used or stored. With age, cells may become less responsive to insulin. This means the body must produce more of it to achieve the same effect. Over time, blood sugar levels can rise, especially after meals. This is why diabetes becomes more common with age. But the story is not just about sugar. It involves muscle mass, liver function, sleep, stress hormones, and fat distribution. Fat stored around organs, known as visceral fat, is particularly linked to insulin resistance. It releases inflammatory signals that interfere with metabolic balance. The hopeful part is how quickly improvements can happen. Even a short walk after meals can reduce blood sugar spikes. Strength training increases the number of glucose-absorbing muscle fibers. Better sleep improves hormone regulation. Reducing alcohol can support liver function. Many parts of this system are flexible. Your cells can become more responsive when your lifestyle invites them to be. The liver itself is another organ that adapts over time. It functions as a chemical processing center, managing nutrients, storing energy, and breaking down substances. Detoxification is often misunderstood. It is not a single event, but a continuous set of processes that transform compounds so they can be safely removed. With age, blood flow to the liver may decrease, and certain enzyme systems may become less efficient. This can affect how medications are processed and how long they remain active. It is one reason dosing often requires more care later in life. Alcohol tolerance may also change, as processing becomes slower and effects feel stronger. Despite this, the liver remains remarkably resilient. It can regenerate and adapt to many challenges. Supporting it is less about dramatic cleanses and more about avoiding overload. Moderation, hydration, and careful medication use go a long way. The kidneys, which filter the blood, also change gradually. They regulate fluids, electrolytes, and blood pressure while removing waste products. Over time, their filtering capacity can decline, often without noticeable symptoms. This can become apparent only when the body is under stress, from dehydration, illness, or certain medications. Reduced function can also affect how drugs are cleared, increasing the risk of side effects. Kidney health is closely tied to blood vessel health. Conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes can accelerate decline. What is remarkable is how quietly the kidneys work. They influence not only fluid balance, but also bone health and red blood cell production. Protecting them often comes down to simple habits: staying hydrated, managing blood pressure, and avoiding unnecessary strain can support their function for decades. The immune system also undergoes a gradual transformation that is both subtle and far-reaching. In youth, immune responses tend to be fast, flexible, and highly reactive. Cells quickly recognize unfamiliar threats, multiply, and coordinate a response that eliminates what does not belong. Over time, this system becomes more experienced, but also more selective. Some responses slow down, while others become less precise. This process is sometimes called immunosenescence, the aging of the immune system. It does not mean the system stops working, but that it changes its strategy. One effect is that the body may respond more slowly to new infections. This is why illnesses can sometimes take longer to resolve. At the same time, the immune system can become more prone to low-level chronic activation. Instead of reacting strongly and briefly, it may remain slightly active for longer periods. This persistent background activity is linked to inflammation. Inflammation itself is not harmful. It is a vital part of healing. But when it becomes constant, even at low levels, it can contribute to a wide range of age-related conditions. This phenomenon is often described as inflammaging. It reflects a system that is still active, but no longer as tightly regulated as before. Vaccination becomes more important in this context. Even though the response may be less intense than in youth, it still provides protection and reduces severity. The immune system also relies heavily on other systems. Sleep, nutrition, stress levels, and physical activity all influence how effectively it functions. Poor sleep, for example, can reduce the production of certain immune cells. Chronic stress can shift the balance of immune signaling. Nutrition provides the raw materials for building and maintaining immune defenses. This interconnectedness means that supporting immunity is not about a single action. It is about creating conditions where the system can operate efficiently. Hormones are another layer of the body's internal communication network that shifts over time. They act as chemical messengers, coordinating processes across different organs and systems. Some hormonal changes are well known. In women, menopause marks a significant shift in estrogen and progesterone levels. In men, testosterone levels tend to decline gradually over time. But beyond these, many other hormonal patterns also evolve. Growth hormone decreases, affecting tissue repair and body composition. Melatonin changes, influencing sleep timing and quality. Cortisol, often associated with stress, can shift in its daily rhythm. These changes do not happen all at once. They unfold over years, often so gradually that they are hard to notice in real time. Yet their combined effects shape energy, mood, metabolism, and resilience. Hormones rarely act in isolation. They form networks, influencing each other in complex ways. A change in one system can ripple through others. For example, poor sleep can alter cortisol patterns, which in turn affect appetite and energy use. The body is constantly adjusting, seeking balance within changing conditions. Understanding this can change how you interpret your own experiences. What feels like a sudden change is often the result of slow shifts that have been building for years. Skin, the body's largest organ, also reflects the passage of time in visible and invisible ways. It acts as a barrier, protecting against physical damage, pathogens, and water loss. It also plays a role in temperature regulation and sensation. Over time, skin becomes thinner and less elastic. This is partly due to changes in collagen and elastin, proteins that give skin its structure and flexibility. Production of these proteins slows, and existing fibers can become less organized. As a result, skin may wrinkle, sag, or bruise more easily. Blood flow to the skin can decrease, affecting how quickly it heals. The outer layer may retain less moisture, leading to dryness. Oil production often declines, which can further contribute to this effect. Sun exposure over a lifetime plays a major role as well. Ultraviolet radiation gradually damages DNA and structural proteins in the skin. This is why areas exposed to the sun often show more pronounced aging. Yet skin is not only a surface, it is an active, living system that continues to renew itself. Cells in the outer layers are constantly being replaced. Wounds still heal, though sometimes more slowly. Care can make a meaningful difference. Hydration, gentle protection from excessive sun, and avoiding harsh damage can support its function. Touch, temperature, and sensation remain important connections between the body and the world. Hair, often considered part of appearance, also reflects biological changes. Hair follicles cycle through phases of growth, rest, and shedding. Over time, this cycle can slow. Hair may grow more slowly, become thinner, or change in texture. Pigment-producing cells in the follicles gradually decrease their activity. This leads to the loss of color that we recognize as graying. The process varies widely between individuals. Genetics play a strong role, but so do environmental factors. Hair is another reminder that aging is not a single event. It is a collection of small, continuous adjustments. Even the senses, how you experience the world, can shift over time. Vision often changes first. The lens of the eye becomes less flexible, making it harder to focus on close objects. This is why reading glasses become common. Contrast sensitivity can decrease, and adaptation to darkness may take longer. Hearing can also change. High-frequency sounds are often the first to become less distinct. This can make it harder to follow conversations in noisy environments. Taste and smell, which are closely linked, may become less sensitive. Food can seem less vivid, which can influence appetite and enjoyment. These changes are not just about perception. They shape behavior, interaction, and experience. When hearing changes, social situations can feel more demanding. When vision shifts, tasks may require more effort or adjustment. The body is not only aging internally, it is also changing how it connects with the outside world. And yet, adaptability remains a constant theme. People adjust lighting, use tools, change habits, and find new ways to engage with their environment. The brain continues to interpret and compensate for these changes. It does not passively receive information. It actively constructs experience from what it senses. In this way, aging is not just about loss. It is also about adaptation, a continuous negotiation between the body and the world. The cardiovascular system, which carries oxygen, nutrients, and signals throughout the body, also evolves over time. The heart, a muscle that beats continuously from before birth, adapts to years of constant work. Its walls can become slightly thicker, and its ability to respond quickly to sudden demands may decrease. This does not mean it stops functioning effectively. Rather, it becomes more deliberate in how it operates. Blood vessels also change. Arteries, which are normally flexible and elastic, can gradually stiffen. This affects how blood flows and how pressure is regulated. As elasticity decreases, the heart may need to work a bit harder to move blood through the body. Blood pressure can rise as a result of these combined effects. Circulation remains essential to every system. The brain depends on a steady supply of oxygen. Muscles rely on it during movement. Organs use it to maintain their internal processes. Even small shifts in circulation can influence how these systems feel and function. Physical activity plays a significant role here. Movement encourages blood flow, supports vessel flexibility, and strengthens the heart. It does not need to be intense to be effective. Consistent, moderate activity can help maintain the system's adaptability. Breathing, closely connected to circulation, also reflects subtle changes. The lungs, like other tissues, gradually lose some elasticity. The muscles involved in breathing may weaken slightly over time. This can reduce the maximum capacity for air exchange. However, at rest, the body usually compensates well. Breathing remains sufficient for daily needs. It is during exertion that differences may become more noticeable. Activities that once felt effortless may require more awareness of breath. Yet, like other systems, the respiratory system responds to use. Regular activity can help maintain efficiency and coordination. Posture, too, plays a role. The way the body is aligned influences how freely the lungs can expand. Small adjustments in how you sit, stand, or move can affect breathing patterns. The digestive system, responsible for breaking down food and absorbing nutrients, continues to function throughout life, but with gradual adjustments. The production of certain digestive enzymes may decrease slightly. This can influence how efficiently some foods are processed. The movement of food through the digestive tract can also slow. This is not always noticeable, but it can affect comfort and regularity. The microbiome, the vast community of microorganisms living in the gut, also changes. These microbes play a role in digestion, immunity, and even mood. Their composition is influenced by diet, environment, medication, and age. A diverse and balanced microbiome supports resilience. Fiber, hydration, and varied nutrition contribute to this balance. The relationship between the gut and the brain is another layer of complexity. Signals travel in both directions, linking digestion with emotional and cognitive states. This is sometimes referred to as the gut-brain axis. It reflects how deeply interconnected the body's systems are. What you eat can influence how you feel, and how you feel can influence how your body processes what you eat. The endocrine and metabolic systems, which regulate how energy is used and stored, also shift gradually. Metabolism often slows over time. This means the body may require fewer calories for the same level of activity. Changes in muscle mass, hormone levels, and activity patterns all contribute. Blood sugar regulation can also become less efficient. Cells may respond differently to insulin, affecting how glucose is used. This does not happen uniformly, and lifestyle plays a significant role. Balanced nutrition, regular movement, and adequate rest support metabolic stability. Energy itself may feel different, not necessarily lower, but distributed differently. There may be a greater need for recovery after exertion. Sleep, in particular, becomes increasingly important. It is during sleep that many repair processes occur. Memory is consolidated, hormones are regulated, cells restore and maintain their functions. Sleep patterns can change with age. Falling asleep may take longer. Waking during the night may become more common. The overall structure of sleep cycles can shift, yet the need for rest remains constant. Creating conditions that support sleep, a calm environment, consistent timing, reduced stimulation, can help maintain its quality. The body continues to repair, adapt, and regulate itself even as these patterns evolve. Energy is not just a measure of activity, It is a reflection of how systems interact and support one another. When one system is strained, others may compensate. When multiple systems are supported, the overall sense of balance improves. This interconnectedness is a central theme of aging. No single system changes in isolation. Each shift influences others, creating patterns that are unique to each individual. The body is not moving toward failure. It is moving through change. Time, in the context of the body, is not experienced as a straight line. It is felt through changes that accumulate slowly, often below the threshold of immediate awareness. A day feels much like the day before. A year passes almost unnoticed. Yet, across longer spans, the differences become clearer. This is because the body does not transform in sudden leaps. It shifts through countless small adjustments. Cells divide, repair, and replace themselves. Proteins fold and unfold. Signals are sent, received, and interpreted. Each moment contains activity that is both ordinary and essential. Over time, patterns emerge from these repeated processes. Some systems become less efficient, others compensate. New balances are found. This is not a collapse. It is a reorganization. The idea of aging as simple decline misses this complexity. It suggests a one-directional process, when in reality it is multidimensional. Some abilities decrease, while others remain stable or even improve. Knowledge accumulates. Experience deepens. The brain refines its ability to recognize patterns and make meaning from them. Emotional regulation often becomes more stable. Reactions may become less impulsive, more considered. Perspective widens. This does not erase difficulty. It changes how it is processed. The body and mind are not separate in this process. They influence each other continuously. Physical states affect mood and thought. Mental states affect physiology. Stress, for example, can alter heart rate, digestion, and immune function. Calm can do the opposite, supporting recovery and balance. This interaction means that aging is not only biological, it is also experiential. How changes are perceived can influence how they are lived. Attention plays a role here. What you notice and how you interpret it shapes your experience. A small change can feel significant or insignificant depending on context. This does not make the change unreal. It shows that experience is constructed as much as it is received. Memory, too, influences perception. The past is not stored as a perfect record. It is reconstructed, influenced by present conditions. This means that your sense of time is flexible. Moments can feel longer or shorter depending on attention and emotion. As routines stabilize, time can seem to pass more quickly. Introducing novelty can expand the sense of time. These psychological dimensions interact with biological aging in subtle ways. They do not stop change, but they shape how it is experienced. The environment also plays a continuous role. Temperature, light, sound, and social context all influence how the body functions. Circadian rhythms, for example, are guided by light exposure. These rhythms regulate sleep, hormone release, and metabolic processes. Disruptions in these patterns can affect overall balance. Maintaining regular exposure to natural light, especially in the morning, can support these internal clocks. Social interaction is another important factor. Humans are not isolated systems. Connection influences mental and physical health. Loneliness, for example, has measurable effects on stress hormones and immune function. Engagement, conversation, and shared experience can support resilience. This does not require large networks. Even small, consistent connections can have meaningful effects. The body is always responding to its surroundings. It adapts not only to internal changes, but also to the environment it inhabits. This means that aging is not fixed. It is shaped by context, behavior, and experience. In the end, aging is not a single process that can be isolated or defined by one change. It is a quiet, continuous unfolding, a series of adjustments that shape how the body and mind move through time. There is no precise moment when it begins, and no clear boundary where one stage ends and another begins. Instead, there is a flow. Cells renew and slow. Systems adapt and recalibrate. Patterns shift, often so gradually that they can only be seen in hindsight. The body you inhabit today is not the same as it was years ago, and yet it is connected through every moment that has passed. Every experience, every action, every environment has left subtle traces. These traces are not only signs of wear, they are also records of adaptation. The heart has learned its rhythms. The brain has shaped its pathways. The immune system has built its memory. The skin has responded to light and touch. Nothing has remained unchanged, and yet nothing has been lost in a simple sense. It has been transformed. Aging, then, is not only about limitation. It is also about continuity. It is the persistence of life through change. The ability of systems to adjust, even when conditions are no longer the same as before. There is a kind of intelligence in this process, not conscious, not directed, but deeply embedded in biology. A tendency toward balance, a constant negotiation between stability and change. This is why the body can endure so much, why it can recover, compensate, and continue. Even when certain functions become less efficient, others adapt. Even when speed decreases, coordination can improve. Even when sensitivity changes, awareness can deepen. The experience of aging is shaped not only by what the body does, but by how it is understood. When seen only as decline, it can feel like a narrowing. But when seen as transformation, it reveals a different perspective, one where change is expected and adaptation is recognized. This does not remove difficulty. It places it within a larger context, a context where change is constant and life continues within it. There is also a certain quiet in this understanding, a sense that not everything needs to be resisted, that some processes are not problems to solve, but conditions to move through. This does not mean passivity. Care still matters. Movement, rest, nourishment, and connection all influence how the body changes. But it shifts the focus from control to support, from resistance to awareness. The body is not separate from time. It is one of the ways time becomes visible. Through it, change can be felt, observed, and lived. And within that, there is a kind of continuity that goes beyond any single moment. A thread that connects past, present, and future. Always shifting, always adapting, always continuing. And as you move through your own experience, much of this remains below awareness. Processes unfold quietly, without needing attention. The heart continues to beat. Breath continues to rise and fall. Cells continue their cycles of renewal. The body, in its own way, keeps going. Not perfectly, not unchanged, but persistently. And perhaps there is something calming in that. The idea that beneath thought, beneath worry, beneath effort, there is a system that continues to function, adjusting, responding, maintaining, moment by moment, without needing to be directed, without needing to be fully understood. A quiet, steady process, unfolding in its own time.